Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. Today we're back to DC Who's Who, and this is issue 25. Yes, issue 25. It's hard to read Roman numerals sometimes. Look at this cover. We got Vigilante front and center. I've always loved that costume. I've said before, and I'll say it again, and I'll probably say it many times in the future, that George Perez and John Byrne are my two favorite superhero comic book artists. Now, John Byrne always gets the edge because John Byrne is a better writer. And John Byrne, if you ask me, is a better designer of costumes. But man, did George Perez knock it out of the park with this design. I love that costume. That is a phenomenal costume. So there you go. So let's look at, we got Wildcat over here. Wildfire, here's Wildcat. That's why I got, that's Clarion the Witch Boy, I think. I guess he's going by Witch Boy in this. I don't know who drew this cover, because it's normally George Perez and sometimes it's Chuck Dixon, and this doesn't look like either one of them, so I'm a little confused. So I don't know who's drawing this cover, but it'll tell us inside. But I was hoping to guess. So I don't know. Oh, okay. I was gonna say Phantom Stranger, but that's Whiplash or something like that. All right, enough wasting time, because all the names are right here. I named them all in the Marvel Universe, but the names are right on the covers. So that's kind of a waste of time. So as always, I always like to check out the letter writers, see if I recognize any of their names. And here is the cast of creators: Robert Greenberger, Len Wein, Mike Barr, Paul Levitz, Doug Munch, Bob Rozaskis, Greg Weisman, E. Nelson Bridwell, Peter Sanderson. Okay, and the list goes on and on and on. Oh, Kevin McGuire and Dick Giorda. I never would have guessed that in a million years. Never in a million years would I have guessed that. So there you go. All right. Now we got the Unknown Soldier. Real name unknown. Perfect. Oh, what was Star Spangled War Stories 151? Who drew this? Joe Kubert. It says Joe Kubert right there. Yeah, a character I really don't know much about. As always, I wasn't into the DC war comics, you know. Late now, I'm more into westerns and war comics than I've ever been in my life. But as a kid, no. Because I always said TV and movies were the best medium for, you know, if you didn't need special effects as much, or you know, like super special effects, like in a science fiction or a fantasy movie, movies and TVs were the best medium for those. But comic books were the best mediums for superheroes because, let's face it, you needed super high special effects, the Untouchables. So I guess this is a Superman gang. So what are they? Are they ghost-like gangsters? That would be awesome. Ghost-like gangsters. Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Yeah, she's passing through a wall. I gotta find out some comics with them. That is an awesome concept. Gangster ghosts. They look like they have technological powers. That is awesome. Valda the Iron Maiden. Ernie Cullen. And Valda was in Arak, Son of Thunder. She was like the female warrior and also the love interest. Which I always say, Arak, Son of Thunder was a much better comic than it had any right to be. When I was a pretentious kid working at the comic book store, anybody who bought Arak, Son of Thunder would be like making fun of him, like, this guy doesn't know good comic. But man, was it a good comic. Now, Arak, Son of Thunder, he was an American Indian who was captured by Vikings. So he was, American Indian, but raised by Vikings, and then later on became like, he was the son. It was revealed that he was the son of the Indian thunder god, and he went on adventures all around the world. Like historical, like he went to Byzantium and places like that. What an awesome comic! What an awesome comic it was! It was so good. And Valda was on again, off again, will they, won't they romance. Vladidus, I love Vladidus. Vladidus is such a great character. He fights the Legion of Superheroes. Oh. Ernie Cullen. Did I say Ernie Cullen? Okay. Vladidus by Kurt Swan and Larry Malstead. Two amazing Legion of Superhero artists. See, Darkseid. So Vladidus fires mental lightning. He's like a titanic giant. So he's bigger than no, and he's like this blind idiot powerhouse. And then later on, when they fought Darkseid was annoyed, and he said, "I will have my revenge." And what he did was he went back in time, and Lightning Lad and Saturn Lass had triplets, and he stole one under the cover of darkness. So they thought they only had twins, and then he, like Sauron, abused and tortured the first elves to turn them into orcs. That's what Darkseid did and made Vladis. That's just horrible. Just shows you the evil and pettiness of Darkseid. I love it. Vandal Savage. So Vandal Savage was a caveman who was exposed to a meteor and became like immortal. So he's not better or stronger than an average human. He just has like, I don't know, 40,000 years worth of experience points. You know, so what would that make him, like 100th level or something like that if we were playing Dungeon? Dennis Cowan or Greg Book. I always liked him. Just like this immortal, conniving, scheming, unkillable being. Just such I love concepts like that. So he's like a caveman in a modern world vanquisher. That looks cheesy. Greg LaRocque and Greg Brooks. I don't know anything about him. Oh, Blue Devil 12 as the vanquisher and Warlord 12. Okay. All right. So he oh, okay. He was in the Blue Devil comic. I still can't recall him. I'm acting like I remember who he was, but I don't remember. But the Blue Devil, I love the Blue Devil comics, and I can't recall him. Just, he looks like he's designed to be purposely wacky. Vartox. Where did he show up? Superman villain. I don't know anything about him. Kurt Swan and Brett Breeding. I don't know anything about Vartox. Remember I was talking about how a good costume goes a long way and a bad costume goes a long way? Well, that's a horrible costume. And I will never like Vartox. Horrible name, bad costume. You know, that's all you need for me to hate you. The Vegan System. Okay. This is by Todd Klein. If you've been following along my Who's Who series of videos, you'll know that the Vegan system is the home of the Omega Men, and it's also Starfire's home system. So just look at this. You got the Star Vega, and look at all of these habitable planets. They were like the indigenous life forms were like artificially experimented on by the Scions, like a reptilian race of emotionalist, passion, you know, emotionalist, like freaky deaky lizard people, and they forced evolution on a whole bunch of planets. So, like I always say, it has the misfortune of having like the most inhabited planets of any known planet, and it's like a spacefaring superhero adventure in one solar system. So, you know, whenever my biggest problem with like space operas is the distances involved. Like, in order to have like spaceships go, like it's always inconsistent. You know, like, you know, Star Trek kind of had like, it showed you how long it took to get between worlds and things like that. But this has all of the spacefaring that you need from Star Trek and Star Trek, because it's one solar system, so you could buy it. You know, it works. Here's the original Vigilante by Gray Morrow. I recognize that signature before I even looked at the picture. First off, I love Gray Morrow. Just one of the original comic book artists and elder statesmen in the comic book industry. Phenomenal talent. You know, I just dig Gray Morrow. I could gush and gush and gush. But cowboy superhero, All-Star Squadron, Action Comics 42. So was he debuted in Superman, or was Action like an anthology? I don't even know. But what else do you want me to say? Just a vigilante superhero. And then later on, I do know that like he time traveled into the present day and he joined the Seven Soldiers of Victory. So, you know, instead of a horse, he rode a motorcycle into battle. You know, kind of interesting character. I kind of like him, but, you know, I like him because, you know, even though I didn't like Western comics, he was still a superhero comic, if that makes sense. You know, but just Batman, you know, is just a motif. Here we go, Vigilante. Wow, he gets a double-page spread by Todd Smith and Rick Magyar. He was created by Bob Wolfman and George Perez. So he was supposed to be DC's version of the Punisher, but DC didn't commit to the bit. And I just remember the very first issue, he tracks down a bad judge to his house, and then he like challenges the judge to like a game of tennis, you know, and then arrests him. You know, it is like, come on, if you're gonna have a Punisher character carrying guns and swords and stuff, commit to the bit. So, but just that great costume goes a long way. And I always loved it. Adrian Chase, that is just a superhero name. That is so cool. The Viking Commando by Carl Kessel. I love Carl Kessel. Carl Kessel is one of my favorite inkers. I'll probably say, I think I ranked him as my second favorite inker. I don't know, something about Carl Kessel's inks I really like. But I don't know anything about this. So All Out War #1. And Viking Commando. You better believe I'm tracking this down. So he's a Viking warrior in the modern times, or he's a modern times guy transported into the Viking times. I don't know. I'm just going to say Viking times because that looks like Vikingness behind him. Either way, that is just cool. So what's he have? You know, those machine guns, you run out of bullets in like seconds. So does he have an endless supply of bullets, or does he know how to make them? Viking Prince. This is by Joe Kubert. Brave and the Bold #1. Wow, so he's been around for a while. I don't know anything about him, but I like that design. I was never into like sword and sorcery or fantasy, whatever genre this is, because I don't know the character. But I'm more interested in it now than I've ever been. So I'll be checking that out. Vermin Wunderbar. Now, as much as I love Jack Kirby and as much as I love his creations, there's a couple of things I bought. Vermin Wunderbar was one of those characters I just didn't like. And he's just like the stereotypical, like, Prussian diplomat, like just the despicable, you know, toady of Darkseid. I just didn't like him. Mr. Miracle #5, and this is by Jack Kirby and Steve Rude. Oh, nice combo there, two legends. I don't particularly like him. I don't particularly dislike him. I just thought he was like a, you know, no great shakes kind of character. If that sounds mean, I'm sorry. You know, even though it's a Jack Kirby character, I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh, I love it. You know, when I obviously don't. Vixen. This is a character that I've always liked. Action Comics 521. I don't know. Anybody know what year that is? By Luke McDonald and Bob Smith. Two amazing talents. Luke McDonald does not get the credit that he deserves. I first discovered him in the 80s, 90s Suicide Squad. I always thought he was just a good, sharp superhero artist. Everything you need. He's not. He doesn't overcomplicate everything. He's nice and clean lines. You know, just good for superheroes. And Bob Smith, oh man, I love Bob Smith. I talked about Bob Smith a lot in one of the previous. Where was I talking about Bob Smith? The X-Men 168. But Vixen I always liked. Just a cool design, cool power set. It's very unique. I don't know what else to say other than just all around great art team and great character. Vixen the Black. This is another for one of the Forever people. Now, for those of you who do not know, Jack Kirby created the Fourth World when he went over to DC Comics, and the Fourth World were like biblical, whereas the Eternals were mythological. Jack Kirby was always exploring like the supernatural, spiritual, religious aspects within people. That was, I guess, something that he was very interested in, and it came out. There was comic book work, obviously, and the New Gods were, you know, if there was a third book of the Bible, you know, the Old Testament, New Testament, and the brand New Testament kind of thing, but the New Testament with the Old Testament characters, if it makes sense. I don't know, maybe I'm rambling, but that's what I always thought it was. You know, so Highfather was like God, and, you know, Darkseid was the devil. Now, in Dungeons & Dragons' turn, because I always bring things to Dungeons & Dragons, forgive me if you don't know what I'm talking about, but there was alignments, you know, chaotic good. So the Michael Moorcock, one of the writers, fantasy writers that influenced Dungeons & Dragons, he had this concept of like law versus chaos, and then Dungeons & Dragons added good versus evil. So there was like 4 points on this compass. Were you lawful and good, or were you chaotic and good, and neutral? You know, were you lawful neutral? Were you neutral good? So there was like this compass rose of all the alignments. Now the Forever people were chaos. They were chaotic good. Darkseid was extreme lawful and evil, you know. So and I always like that the idea that law doesn't necessarily have to coincide with good. You know, lawful evil, oppression. You can't make a move without like rules beating down on you. That, you know, and so Vixen the Black, he was a member of the Forever people, which were just like these chaotic good kids out for a good time in like a space dune buggy kind of thing. Dune buggies were super big around this point. And the Wanderers by Mike Clark, who I don't really know, but Pablo Marcos was a phenomenal inker. He was around in Marvel in the late 70s, 80s, and I think 90s. Maybe still around, I don't know. But I just love Pablo Marcos. He made everybody's art look better. But the Wanderers, these were another superhero team in the Legion of Superhero world. And I don't really know much about them, believe it or not. You know, they brought them back in a horrible, horrible comic. The Warlord, what is this? Warlord of Ease by Gil Kane. This has got to be a Green Lantern villain. I don't know anything about this guy. I know nothing about this guy. I don't know much about. I don't like Green Lantern. I never did. Got to admit, it's one of the coolest costumes of all time. But power. I can't relate to that power. It's this energy ring, and there's a whole thousands of them. You know, and they got rules, but they don't have to listen to the rules. And now there's 20,000 of them on the Earth. You know, I don't know. I just don't like the Green Lantern, so I don't know much about this. Warlord, Mike Grell. Oh man, I love Warlord. I love Mike Grell. I became a Mike Grell fanboy after the Longbow Hunters, and then he did that Green Arrow series, and then I went and I hunted and I got everything back. I did a showcase on I never did a showcase on Warlord, but I did a showcase on John Sable, and I'm currently reading Star Slayer. Just a good talent. Something about Mike Grell I really like. But anyway, this was the John Carter, Warlord of Mars. So it's a regular human. He gets caught in the hollow earth, and his dinosaurs and sexy barbarian chicks and evil wizards. Just a good comic. Really like it. And it's in the DC proper. He actually comes and meets Green Lantern. The Warlords of Akara. They're the bad guys. They're like the Empire of the Vegan system. So they're like one of the mean bad guys that the Omega Men fight. Them in the Citadel, I think, are the two main bad guys groups. Nothing much else to say. The Warp, he's a George Perez creation. He fought the Teen Titans in the Fearsome Five. Is this George Perez? Yes, this is George Perez. And who's this? This is Todd Smith. Not the best design, but he has teleportation ability, so he makes these little warps and vastly powerful if he uses intelligence to write his stories. But his personality was never really fleshed out. War Wheel, who fights this? Blackhawk, Dan Spiegel. Dan Spiegel, I just know is a classic DC artist. I don't know much about him other than he did a lot of Superman and a lot of early DC stuff that I don't really know too much about. Was Blackhawks originally DC? Was it one of those things that they bought? I don't know. But here's Terry Oster drawing the Wayne Foundation in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. This Batman, instead of Wayne Enterprises, he also has Wayne Enterprise, but this is the Wayne Foundation, and it just had this cool building with this tree in the middle. Is that still around? Because that is just so cool. But Batman and Robin kind of lived out of that there instead of the Batcave for a while. The Weasel. I can't even. Joe Brozowski and Danny Jones. The Weasel. Who is he? Fury of Firestorm. Again. Nobody's gonna believe that I actually read the Firestorm comics because I keep losing track of all the villains. The Weasel. He's a wereweasel. The Weather Wizard by Carmine Infantino, Murphy Anderson. Murphy Anderson's doing a good job on Carmine Infantino. At this point in his career, like I keep saying every issue, that the inker really, buffs him up or destroys him. It's a Flash villain, a Batman villain. Here he is fighting Flash. Here he is fighting Batman. Don't know much about him. He has this Miracolo wand, and he uses it to control the weather. The Whip by Mike Gustovich. I've always liked Mike Gustovich's art. I discovered Mike Gustovich on the Justice Machine. That was his team that he created. I don't know, that's pretty cool. The White Witch. I didn't like the White Witch at first because she's a member of the Legion of Superheroes, and then I didn't like that they introduced sorcery. But I grew to like her. They gave her a really cool personality. Who is her sister? Her sister's not Saturn Girl, is it? No, her sister is, I forget. But this is by Mike DiCarlo and Larry Malstead. So she's one of the she joined the Legion of Superheroes and became one of the I think one of the stronger standout characters. She developed a friendship with Block. As far as I know, it never went farther than friendship. But she can cast spells, but she's limited by the effort that she puts in it, and every once in a while she has to go back to Sorcerer's World to revamp her abilities. Cool character. Wildcat by Erwin Hessen, who I know nothing about, and I'm not too particularly fond of this. I'm sure. I don't know. I'm going to say something, but I shouldn't. Keep my mouth shut because I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to Erwin Hessen. But I've always liked him. Ted Grant, professional boxer. And he's got no powers. And he just beats the crap out of it. He's just like a world-class boxer. And they retroactively said that he trained like all of the DC hand-to-hand combatants. And this guy's just like a ladies' man. He's like older. You know, he's in the JSA, and then the magic science of the JSA kept him young. And, you know, he's always with, like, younger women, and, you know, I guess that a lot of daddy complexes in the DC universe. But, and then all of a sudden he died, and then he jumped up again. And it was said that he has 9 lives. So he does have a superpower. He has 9 lives. And they never, as far as I know, they never explained how he has 9 lives. But the thing is, they said that he always has 9 lives. So does that mean he's, like, immortal? I don't know. That's something cool to explore. But when they killed him and they got rid of him for a little while, they had Yolanda Montez as Wildcat too, and she's kind of like a mutant. She could like pop claws out, and, you know, she has like a cat-like senses. Todd McFarlane and Jerry Ordway, wow. But she debuted in the Infinity Incorporated, and as far as I know, she came and went. She was a flash in the pan. Wildfire, how cool is that? I love that. So he was like the bad boy of the Legion of Superheroes, and I loved it because an accident reduced him to like a plasma. So he's just like a formless plasma, and he wears this containment suit to give him like human shape. So he's just like an energy construct, and so he's not human. So he's a Pinocchio. I always like the Pinocchios. Pinocchios are they're not human, but they just want to be a human boy, and you know he's basically immortal. Energy can't be destroyed or anything like that. So he's just limited by the containment suit. If the suit is breached, he just like floats around. So he needs a suit to interact with people. And just how cool is that suit? Look, I love that, just the face mask. But anyway, he blasts like propulsion and fire and maybe even radiation. Just such a cool guy. And he's in love with Dawnstar, and Dawnstar's in love with him. But Dawnstar, even though she's in love with him, she won't be with him because she's like an American Indian, and they travel to another planet to have like a place of their own. And her tribe you can't get married unless you can produce offspring. So to be with him is just a waste. So he's just like, you know, unrequited love. Just I don't know. I like that. That's drama. What else do you want? Wing. This is the Crimson Avenger sidekick by who drew this? Dave Cockrum. He's one of the top best comic book designers. So this is Gene Colan and Art Nichols. I don't know anything about Art Nichols, but he's not really doing Gene Colan's art. That's good. He's the teen sidekick of the Crimson Avenger. Don't really know much about him, but Detective Comics number 20. So they were even before Batman. Batman was Detective Comics 27. And the Witch Boy. Another Jack Kirby. Who's this? Jack Kirby, Greg Thiessen. So Clarion, the Demon number 7. So he was this sorceress witch boy, is the only way to describe it, who was plaguing the demon. Just look at that face. I've always been creeped out by this character. I don't know why. Just creepy. And then, of course, they gender swapped them, so now it's the witch girl. But if it's a different person of the same race, then that's fine. But if it's the actual character gender swapped, I hate that. And here's the characters that comics that actually came out. So let's look. I did not get that Justice League. I got that Vigilante. I did not get the Hawkman. You better believe I got the Teen Titans. I got Warlord. And Secret Origins I also got. And here's the back cover. So there you go. That's 23 minutes of me talking about DC Who's Who. This series, I don't know. It looks like there's still a bunch left. I don't recall exactly how many issues there are left. But you know, this always goes over well. So I space it out because once it's done, it's done. So thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you tomorrow with another video.